idea. Right now, I think it's Jim Jordan that is going to be running it. Tucker talked about Thomas Massey last night. Thomas Massey is a great friend of mine. I totally support him too. Put Thomas Massey and Jim Jordan running a church-style committee right here in Congress. These are all things that we are so excited to start doing, but here we are having a stupid fight for absolutely no reason. So I'm encouraging people, hey, open your eyes and realize what's happening to the majority you worked hard to make happen. People that knocked doors, people that donated money, people that supported campaigns. You helped us win the majority. Now we need to elect a speaker. We've got over 200 people for Kevin McCarthy. We got 20 people that just need to come this way, and all they have to do is let's finish working out the differences and let's get the game going, because it's time to do something, Charlie. We can't wait any longer.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know you got to get back to the House floor. It seems like they're starting some announcements.
Yeah,
we'll be watching. Marjorie, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Bye-bye.
Email us, freedom@charliekirk.com. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? We have Kurt Schlichter that's going to join us in just a second here. And I think that they are going back for Are they going to a fifth vote? Is that right? Can you guys listen for me? It seems that they're going to a fifth vote. So the 20 people that are currently objecting to Kevin McCarthy: Eli Crane from Arizona, Anna Paulina Luna, Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Scott Perry, Paul Gosar, Norman from South Carolina, Ogles from Tennessee, Bob Good from Virginia. I think that's Self from Texas, Mary Miller from Illinois, Cloud from Texas. Don't see what that says there. Boebert from Colorado, Bretchen from Oklahoma, Donalds from Florida, Clyde from Georgia, Harris from Maryland, Bishop from North Carolina, Rosendale from Montana, and Chip Roy from Texas. It's the same list as yesterday. We actually never read it on air. Are they nominating now? If it's Warren Davidson, he's probably nominating Kevin McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken. That's just a guess based on body language and other, nominating Kevin McCarthy. Okay, we're going to go do this again. We're going through the entire vote again, another roundabout, and we're going to see what happens. So let me see here. We have, I'll tell you about one of our partners after the break. We have Kurt Schlichter with us. Kurt, welcome back to the program. Kurt, this is makes Barnum and Bailey's seem boring. Your thoughts, Kurt Schlichter?
Well, I just saw a tweet by Chip Roy who says, hey, this is what it looks like when everybody's here in a seat and we're all debating. And I got to say, he's got a point. Look, I think people need to take yes for an answer. I'd like to get this done. I think the guy with the most votes is probably Kevin McCarthy. Although I'm not wedded to Kevin McCarthy, I don't care one way or the other. I just want to get this moving. Look, I think it's good that we're having a fight. I just don't think this is the right fight to be having day after day after day. I think the rebels are going to have to come out and make very clear exactly, here are the specific demands that we have, that we want, and then we'll elect Kevin McCarthy if he agrees to them. But we haven't seen that, and it allows the McCarthy side to effectively paint these people as confused or scattered or self-serving. So I'd like to see this get behind us. At the end of the day, Kevin McCarthy had to round up 218 votes. Hasn't done that yet. Kind of on Kevin.
And so my advice to the Freedom Caucus when they called last evening is you guys have to have very clear, if the position is I'm never going to vote for Kevin, then say that. Then don't even
we already
said
that.
Motions of negotiating. Okay.
Yes.
But if you say there's a chance, then tell us what you need to have conceded. Make a list of 3 to 5 items. And they start talking about the Rules Committee. And I said to one of the members, I'd had a 20-minute phone call. I said, I don't know what the Rules Committee is, and I'm in the business of politics. I said, I have to look it up. And they say, well, it's the most important thing. I said, then explain it, right? I mean,
yes.
So 20 seconds, Kurt. We'll pick this up after the break.
No, you're absolutely correct. Look, I'm a lawyer. I stand in front of 12 people who couldn't figure out a way out of jury duty, and I ask them to give my clients millions of dollars, like it says on those that wall there. You've got to explain things from people because you're bringing them into a new world, whether it's a auto accident or an aircraft crash or the House of Representatives. explain them the facts, let them make their call.
12 people that couldn't get out of jury duty. That's great. Kurt, stay right there. Kurt Schlichter, everybody. Check out his books. They're terrific. 1 second, please. Okay, what do we have, guys? I want to tell you guys about Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature is a terrific product, especially in the winter, for you to be able to get your fruits and vegetables. So check it out, Balance of Nature, right now. Fresh start. The phrase literally means an opportunity to begin something. Again, how many times last year did you say to yourself, I need to start eating better? If you're thinking you're suddenly going to start buying and preparing fresh fruits and veggies, which you have to do every other day to keep them fresh, it's not just likely you're going to follow through with that plan. I have a much more convenient way for you to make that fresh start with Balance in Nature. I take them every day. I want you to as well. For a limited time, all new preferred customers will receive an additional 35% discount and free shipping on your first Balance in Nature order. Use discount code CHARLIE. Call 800-2468-751 or go to balanceofnature.com. Discount code CHARLIE. It's balanceofnature.com. Discount code CHARLIE. Balanceofnature.com. Discount code CHARLIE. Check it out right now. What are your thoughts? freedom@charliekirk.com. More after the break.
By members of Congress, the Holman Rule, an end to the Gephardt Rule, cut go instead of pay go, an end to unblocked suspension votes, a major reform worked out with Morgan Griffin, what we hope to call the Griffin Rule, on single subject bills subject to germaneness points of order and amendment. Diverse viewpoints on every committee. Lastly, a church-style commission was added to the Judiciary Committee focused on the abuses our own big government has unjustly collaborated with big business and big tech to silence, persecute, or even prosecute our fellow citizens. As Thomas Massey pointed out, Elon Musk bought a crime scene. Now that we know and the public knows, the question is, what in the hell are we going to do about it? Well, this select committee answers that question with oversight and leadership by our most effective member, my friend and colleague, the future chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan. We, as Republicans, are a big and diverse conference. The real question goes back to strategy. Can we accept incremental progress? Can we work for a victory, one first down at a time? Or can we only accept the high-risk trick plays? Can we set about the hard work of winning debates with our colleagues, as we have done through this process? Can we take a win every now and then and give hope to the forgotten men and women of America who no longer believe this place, this people's house, cares about them? Or having achieved nearly every concession that we've asked for?
Democracy lives in light. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Apparently, The Hill has retracted their reporting and has deleted their tweet and deleted the story, saying that it was poorly sourced and Kevin McCarthy is not working with Democrats to try and become Speaker of the House. So that has been retracted and has been corrected. Lots of emails here. People pretty fired up. This is really, let me just kind of editorialize on this for a second before we welcome Kurt Schlichter back. This here is really not about Kevin McCarthy, and it's not even about the Speaker of the House, and it's not about the House of Representatives. This here has become a culmination point, a proxy war for culminated grievances, pent-up injustices of the last many years. This here is a volcanic eruption of many years of betrayal, deceit, and arrogance. What's happening here is not about Kevin, and it's not about Congress. It's about the institution. It is about the organism of our government that has betrayed the people for so long, and this is the reaction to it. Welcome back. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. Let me tell you about one of our partners really quick, and I'll welcome back Kurt Schlichter. Where is my Patriot Supply? Anyway, okay, so here's it. Look, My Patriot Supply is a fabulous company. You guys have got to be prepared for what is coming next. This new year is going to be full of uncertainty. I think we're coming to an economic collapse. There's food shortages coming, and they're expected to be pretty bad. Go to My Patriot Supply at preparewithkirk.com right now, and you'll save $200 on a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. The food is delicious and easy to prepare. You will not go hungry. These kits are in stock and ready to ship straight to your door. Shipping is free, and your entire order arrives in unmarked boxes for your privacy. Do not put this off. Get the food you're going to need. Go to preparewithkirk.com. That is preparewithkirk.com. Check it out right now. They're terrific. Preparewithkirk.com. Preparewithkirk.com. Can we have that picture-in-picture if possible, guys? Preparewithkirk.com. Kurt Schlichter is back with us. Kurt, I will say, one of the reasons this is happening is because the Uniparty and D.C. has ignored their constituents for so long. This seems to be kind of an opportunity, finally, for some of the rebels to get some of that energy out. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. And this eventually had to happen. And the compromises that need to be made need to be made. The way the House has been running out of regular order for a decade or more has just been a complete disaster. And we're seeing a pushback. It had to happen sometime. It is happening now because they have the power.
Mic check,
because
mic
Kevin
check.
McCarthy and the Republicans didn't manage to get a red tsunami. Instead, they got a red splash. That's a consequence. So this fight had to happen. I don't think it had to happen this way. I think it should have been taken care of between November and now. But everybody was playing chicken, and well, this is chicken. And sometimes in chicken, you crash. I think, I think we could take a couple days of this. I think after that, we're going to start looking bad, and it's going to start running down our brand, not with the very online people, but with normal people, with regular. Folks. And that's
for quite some time. $1.7 trillion omnibus, Ukraine, open southern border, being able to send money to go, secure the border of Tunisia, Oman, Lebanon, and Pakistan, but not a dollar to secure our own border. And eventually you go full network and you say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But there's a good way to do that, a constructive way, a prudent way. And then there's an unhealthy way. I don't think they're necessarily in the unhealthy. I think calling these people terrorists and Taliban, I think it's super wrong.
Totally
I think it's awful. It's not right. But I think there has to be a place where, like, okay.
Byron Donalds. So let's.
Is not.
Purpose does the gentlewoman from Colorado rise?
I rise to nominate Congressman Byron Donalds.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
I rise today to nominate Byron Donalds, my friend, an amazing man of Florida, an amazing leader, someone who almost even took leadership here in our Republican Party and came very close in doing so, and it was a very brave run that he took. He's a man who understands what tough times look like, and has come out of those tough times even stronger, more liberated, and as a leader. Now, we just heard from my respected colleague from Ohio, and he stated some amazing rules that we have been able to get an agreement on, I think. We were threatened pretty heavily in conference, saying if we don't do as we ought, then some of those rules may just go away. But even naming the germaneness rule, which is really fantastic, after Morgan Griffith, well, that was our idea too. My question is, why didn't the supposed leader of the Republican Party present these rules? Why were we fought so hard on these rules? The barrier that still stands in the way of these rules is the structure that prevents us from rolling over. And as my friend from Chip Roy stated, we need the tools and the leadership to do our job correctly. And I believe that Byron Donalds is the man to lead us to that path of getting America on track and uniting the Republican Party. My colleagues and I have worked tirelessly for months to build consensus, to negotiate in good faith, to help unify our party on border security, energy security, debt reduction, term limits, earmarks, among other many common sense policies. But too often our efforts have fallen on deaf ears. Our border is wide open. Inflation is out of control. The Senate just passed $1.7 trillion without our input. So let me be clear. Our job is not to coronate the biggest fundraiser or rubber stamp the status quo or keep on going along to get along. It's to use our votes to elect a speaker who will enable us to get our country back on track. Getting the job done is what we were elected to do. And that starts with having a leader who supports Republican principles, builds consensus, and has a proven track record of success. Byron Donalds is that leader. Republicans, including many moderates, have been impressed by Byron Donalds. They're impressed by his ability to work together. They respect his leadership. We see him as someone who can communicate what we are all wanting to do in this House to Americans. And he represents so much more than just his district in Florida. Many millions of Americans all over this nation praise the work and the leadership of Byron Donalds. So let's work together. Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics to get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
You thought it was a cult, but it wasn't.
You back?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't make that noise just because it wasn't what you thought it was. Don't make that noise.
Will again call the roll.
Donald Trump, I put this on the community tab earlier. Hopefully my mic's fine. Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Chip Roy, all these people, the ones that I hold the most high in high regards in the House, are putting their necks on the line. And Donald Trump doubles down on Kevin McCarthy, doesn't even give them a bone for, I think it's a courageous act what they're doing right now. So what needs to, so if you need to know why I'm out on Donald Trump, that's all you need to see. There's a bunch of other things. You can look at a bunch of, that's it right there. You just look at that. Somebody needs to take him. This is that time, and I'm going to call him Grandpappy Don from now on. Somebody needs to take Pappy Don, get him in a wheelchair, and get him into a nursing home, a senior care facility. This is a political battle, and he is a liability on the battlefield. And that's Lauren Boebert saying, so what did Donald Trump said, called us and said we need to back down, so what? What, you thought that was going to be it? Donald Trump is one of the greatest Americans who's ever lived. I do not say that lightly. Donald Trump is one of the greatest. Let me give you my Urkel glasses and everything in big picture right now. This is very serious. I can't even take myself seriously. I do need them. They look like bifocals. Donald Trump is one of the greatest Americans to ever live, one of the greatest citizens. And why I say that is he defeated the giant Hillary C. That's when the whole planet went crazy, after he defeated Hillary C. So he had his moment. He was the one that cleared the path for all of this, for Gates and Boebert and all of that. So that's not to diss his legacy. That's not to diss him. This is a different moment in time. You can't go back on the football field when you are too old to play. And it's not just an age thing. It's just, he's just not relevant anymore. So Donald, your service has been great. You still have a voice. But right now, you are a liability. You need to step aside and get the hell up out of the way. You are a problem right now. You're not helping. You are a problem. Donald Trump wrote the book, or through a ghostwriter, whatever, wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. I don't care about what you care about Kevin McCarthy. Charlie Kirk is sounding like a buffoon right now. Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes. So why is he still trying to put this up for vote? That is trying to bash people over the head. That is all you need to see to show that he shouldn't be speaker. Matt Gaetz has been telling everyone who is willing to listen for 2 months. I covered that a little bit myself. Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes. He's been telling people for 2 months. If you didn't believe him, that's fine. But here we are now. So Matt Gaetz's take isn't Chip Roy should be speaker. He never had a take like that. He said Kevin McCarthy is a hard no, period. It's done. Let's find somebody else together. So what they need to do is get in a room and figure it out. If you can't figure out who's speaker, how the hell do you think you're going to have any type of hearing that makes any sense? Can you get it through your thick skull, Charlie Kirk? How are you going to impeach anybody? You can't even choose a speaker. You asshat. Oh, let's just coalesce around Kevin McCarthy. He doesn't have the votes. So what that means is there's nothing that they could do that would even mean anything. They can't even choose a leader. This is why I'm very big on my kids playing sports. I used to be in an orchestra. I played violin, viola. When you're a part of a team, very often you choose captains. This is a football team that can't choose a captain. We don't need to practice. The locker room ain't right. We aren't going to win any games. Why is that so hard to understand? Thanks for joining. Let's take a look. I'm going to get back to this here, see what they're just doing a 5th vote count. Are you serious? And you really think this helps Kevin McCarthy? What is he doing? You know, Kevin McCarthy should be used to this. The same thing happened in 2015. John Boehner stepped down, and everyone thought Kevin McCarthy was the young gun that would be speaker. Everyone thought wrong, and Kevin McCarthy had to step aside. I'm not here for his aspirations. Dave Smith, comic Dave Smith. Let me show you. I'm gonna show you this clip here, and he talked about it, how the Mises Caucus took over. I've played this before. I'm gonna play it again because it's very pertinent right now. This is the same thing. MAGA's taking over the Republican Party in a way. They're outnumbered, but they've got power. That's a fact. We see that right now. Dave Smith, Michael Heiss, and et al. Took over the Libertarian Party. It was just like the Mises Caucus was the same thing as MAGA was to the whole GOP. And the Mises Caucus de-wokified the Libertarian Party and took it over. And one of the pieces that Comic Dave Smith said was there's all these old vanguards of the Libertarian Party that said, I've put decades into the Libertarian Party. You heard Jim Jordan say, we've been here for 16 years. And Kevin, do you think I give a damn about how long you've been there? In fact, maybe you've been there too long. They had the same thing, people who thought they were entitled to positions because of how long they were there. That's not how this is going to go anymore. That's not how this is going to work. I warned you, I'm just saying, Matt Gaetz and others warned you for 2 months. You thought you were playing poker. You thought I didn't have a hand. Now we're on the river and you know I have a hand. You're going to have to fold. Here's what Comic Dave Smith had to say. These are the only things that I saw from mainstream media about the Libertarian Party, and this is what made them a joke.
I would like to ask the body.
So the Libertarian Party analogy is the GOP. The GOP Republicans are a joke. Mises Caucus is MAGA.
To consider that the Libertarian Party acquire a mascot. And I would like to propose Dobby from the Harry Potter series, who in the 7th book says, Dobby has no master. Dobby is a free elf, and Dobby has come to save Harry Potter and his friends.
The perception is that they take liberty with the idea of liberty. If you want to know why I'm playing this, look at this. Don't look away. It's that meme where they take the head from Game of Thrones and they open up the eyes, and I want you to see this. This is Kevin McCarthy right now. This is how stupid what he's doing is. It's the same thing. They just put a nice little suit on it and a tie. It's the same type of buffoonery. We told you he doesn't have the votes. When are you going to get it through your thick skull? So it is pertinent. Easy, bro. That's too much for me. Too much liberty all at once. But what I am seeing is this dude does have some political gravitas, some smart, some savviness. He's cleansing that party of all that foolishness I showed you earlier.
I don't understand how, whatever your politics are, you can be on the side of people who can't handle Dave Smith if they're interested in handling the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
The Andy Craig letter when he resigned was really something. I mean, he listed off every little position that he's had in the Libertarian Party. And he was like, I was the head of this committee. I worked on this campaign. I volunteered for this thing. I did this. I ran for this office and got the highest percentage of anybody who's ever lost for that office. And now I'm quitting. And it was this thing of like, yeah, like you see it, like you see the kind of entitlement. This is an illusion that someone sold you. And I'm sorry you bought into it, but that's not what I'm not working for any of these institutions. My commitment is like to human liberty. It's not to your steps.
So it all matches, except I will completely admit and acknowledge MAGA is not there for human liberty. They're authoritarian, definitely more authoritarian than Comic Dave Smith, but the analogy still stands. One more time, and think about this as Kevin McCarthy. I'm entitled to it. I've been doing all. You haven't even been successful, bruh. Why aren't we talking about the midterms? I don't hear even Charlie Kirk. I don't hear nobody talking about the midterms. We just had the midterms where it was supposed to be a red wave. Kevin McCarthy did not participate in that, did not help that. Allegedly, I did the video where he took money from, indirectly, the SBF FTX stuff. That was all anti-Trump money.
It was like, I was the
Kevin McCarthy was this, and then he was that, and he's been there for 16 years. He was a young gun, and he did this, and he did that.
Head of this committee. I worked on this campaign. I volunteered for this.
I was supposed to be the speaker in 2016, and it didn't happen.
This thing. I did this. I ran for this office.
You ran for this, and you ran for that, and I'm in California.
And got the highest percentage of anybody who's ever lost.
I got the most votes for speaker on every count.
that office, and now I'm quitting. And it was,
and now I'm speaker.
This thing of like, yeah, like you see it, like you see the kind of entitlement. This is an illusion that someone sold you, and I'm sorry you bought into it, but that's not what I'm not working for any of these institutions. My commitment is like to human liberty. It's not to your steps.
Somebody needs to get that message back to Charlie Kirk, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Kevin McCarthy, Pappy Don. Somebody give. Number one, Pappy needs to get to a wheelchair. We need to get him some ice cream, just like Brandon, because it's over politically. I'm not anti-Pappy. I'm just saying that as far as running for office, that we're well beyond that. That's exactly what's happening here. They were able to do it because it was at a smaller scale. Let's see if they're doing anything on the ABC. If not, then I'll go to Charlie Kirk. Oh, yeah, let's look at Donald. Just do it.
Oh, this is too much drama and it's a sad day for America. Not true at all. This is actually an invigorating day for America, because what it demonstrates is that you do have people up here on Capitol Hill who, one, can get together and have tough conversations and negotiate things out. Two, can do things for the betterment of their constituents back home.
Let's go.
There's just too many of y'all right now. Huh?
Did McCarthy drop out?
That's a question for Kevin. I'm not going to answer that question.
Good answer.
There's no members of Congress right now sworn in, or no members of the House rather sworn in.
Right.
So, like, if there was a national security crisis or something, I mean, this is sort of uncharted waters here for the country. Are you have any concerns about just the fact that the House is not functioning as it should, doesn't have any members sworn in?
Well, hold on. We all know that if a national security crisis arises, the President of the United States is right down the street, and I would anticipate the President would act to secure the homeland and take care of the American people. When it comes to leveraging money to be spent in response, that's something that the members would have to put into their calculus as well. But that doesn't mean that we should speed up our business here for some hyperbole that may exist at some point. The president has dollars that have been appropriated, and he has some constitutional authorities to protect the homeland and do what needs to be done.
But at this point, there is no functioning Congress. So how long can this possibly drag on for? What is the path forward?
I actually don't think it's going to drag on much longer. I think this is something that's going to be resolved. But again, listen, the wind is blowing, y'all. People are still driving in their cars. People went to work this morning. They dropped their kids off. My kids went to school this morning. The American people are living their lives like they've always done. But what we're doing in the building behind me is we're going to make sure that this place operates as efficiently as possible and as optimally as possible to address the needs and concerns of the American people. And once we get this organized and figured out, we'll get back to business as usual.
Do you want to be speaker? Do you actually want to be? Is it a protest vote?
Like, actually, no, not really. Never came here to try to be Speaker of the House.
What is the outreach?
Well, they nominated me. Of course, I voted for myself. That's pretty cool.
What do you view as an acceptable alternative?
Hold on, you back it up there. Sorry.
What do you think of Donald Trump's endorsing Kevin McCarthy in the speaker's race?
Well, that's been consistent. I think, President Trump has been in that position for several months. Knowing President Trump, he doesn't change his mind. And so, I think that's all well and good. But the members are going to decide this process. And that's in no disrespect at all to President Trump. That's just the reality of the House of Representatives.
Has Trump reached out to you?
No, I'm not talking to him yet.
What do you view as an acceptable
about your vote?
We actually talked earlier today, and I anticipate we're going to talk again later today. Again, guys, look, I'm a business guy, so, having negotiations is par for the course. And I think too often in D.C., everything's filled with drama and feelings, and we got to get out of that posture and just get back to a posture of just having real conversations and getting jobs done.
Though, Congressman, the perception from our side, we're not on the inside of these negotiations,
sure,
is that there isn't progress being made.
Yeah, you guys
what
are at
kind
20.
Of progress is there being made? Because it's like Groundhog Day, same vote over and over. So what progress is being made?
Well, I mean, time out, man. Even Groundhog Day in the movie, that lasted about, 9-10 days? This is only day 2, man. Y'all settle down. We're going to be all right. Look, there's going to be progress made. There's already been some discussions. I was having conversations on the floor right now with key members, and I think we're going to continue that the rest of today and see where we land.
What is your ask for McCarthy? What are you negotiating to?
Well, like I said earlier, the motion to vacate at 1 is one of the key ones. I think that just has to happen. And again, my viewpoint is that if Nancy Pelosi stripped the rule, that's actually a bad thing for America. So putting it back should be no big deal.
Is that enough to get the yes?
Are you a yes if he does that?
So hold on.
If not you, who do you want as speaker at this point?
Well, what I want as the Speaker of the House is going to actually be able to use every tool in this building to accomplish the will of the American people and have trust and definite belief that we're going to get that work done. Because, look, I leave my kids for too many days. I leave my wife for too many days to come up here and just walk back and forth from the Longworth building. Not interested in that anymore, so we're going to get active.
Are you worried that this feeds into the Democratic narrative that Republicans are unserious about governing?
Nah. Democrat narratives? Come on. How many of those have we seen in the last couple of years, and they never seem to pan out? I think that, look, they're going to try to do their job to message. But the truth is, this is day 2. Not day 100, not day 200. Everybody's going to be just fine. That's all politics. But if you've actually followed Democrat narratives, they always seem to be wrong.
But how does,
Interesting.
How does motion to vacate and some of these changes help government function? Because it seems like in the past that hasn't really helped Congress pass bills it needs to and given the majority
Well,
power.
I think that's the first part of it. It's about empowering members to do the job that they were elected to do, not continuing to put more power into the hands of the speakership. And I think that our conference, working together, all Republicans have gotten to a place where we've begun to open that up and get it to where it's much more member-driven and member-friendly. I think what we're probably about to do in the next couple of hours is finish that work and elect a speaker and move on.
Just a clarification on what voters wanted when they elected Republican
Hold on, the lady behind you. I have answered 2 of your questions. Give me a minute.
I just wanted a clarification. In the rules package, it sets the number at 5 members.
Yeah.
You want it reduced to 1?
Yeah.
And is that enough?
To the original
Yes.
rules?
Is that enough?
I think that'll work for some members, but, again, you got to go in and negotiate that. So I don't want to negotiate between you guys.
Are there any
you guys.
other rule changes?
Before they nominated you today?
Say again?
Did McCarthy's critics ask you before you were nominated today? Did Chip Roy speak to you or give you a heads up?
Yeah, the members who were voting no, they did approach me. It's something I had to, really think through and process. Did that, talked with my wife and, agreed to it, and here we are.
Are you worried about retribution after the fact? There was threats that folks that weren't going to vote for McCarthy would be kicked off committees. Now you've put yourself in a pretty public position.
Good question.
Who the person that could be the speaker. Are you worried about retribution?
Man, I'm 6'2", 275. I'm not worried about that. Guys, look, I am not a political guy per se, even though, I'm a politician now. The way I view these things is that we'll work through it and figure it out. But the real pressure, the real, danger, that's not happening in here. I mean, retribution, come on, man. I'm a city kid from New York. This is nothing.
Was there any proactive outreach from McCarthy and his allies before you changed your vote, before you became the pick this morning?
Nah, not really.
Do you think there should have been?
That's not a question for me. That's a question for them.
McCarthy has already made some pretty significant concessions. So what needs to change about his approach? I mean, what does it say that he keeps failing over and over again? What needs to change?
Well, look, I think this is something we're going to try to hammer out in a room today. And, my hope is that, the leadership that so many of our members believe in is going to come through today. And if that's what happens, then we're going to go ahead and elect a speaker and we'll move on.
Are you meeting with McCarthy today? What do you mean?
Yeah, I anticipate we're going to meet later today.
I have a geeky question.
Besides the motion to vacate, is there any other rules that you consider, a rule change that you consider that?
Now, I told you guys I'm not going to negotiate through the press. Come on.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. Jeffries. Maliotakis.
Scott up on a IFB, communicate with her. So
what we're witnessing is a political star is born. And don't mistake that for me thinking that these politicians are worth a damn. But let's just talk about it from the arena of politics. We just saw a star. We've seen a star born right in front of our very eyes. I haven't followed him since the last year or so. I have used his clips in a couple of videos, though. This is Byron Donalds. I always forget the S on his name. Byron Donalds. And he's excellent when it comes to finances. I've used his clip a couple times on the channel in hearings because he's just been excellent. And his positioning here is very good. You saw how he handled all those questions? Nothing. Bow. Get out of here. Just get off of me. Are you worried about the threat? Get off of me. I'm 6'2", 275. Get off of me. Yeah, that's what you want. He's got respect from some of the America First people. He's not a MAGA guy. So what? I'm not here to have everyone be a MAGA guy. I do want respect, though. You respect this. You respect MAGA. MAGA can respect establishment positions too. And he's not. I wouldn't call him an establishment. He's just a Kind of like a young, I hate to use this comparison because they're both black, but he does remind me of a young Tim Scott when Tim Scott was good. But yeah, we're seeing a political star born, period. Big BS says, this is what AOC would have done with Pelosi. Don't need another cult mentality. This is what AOC should have done with Pelosi, is get rid of her, make a move on her. They didn't want those problems, though. Nancy Pelosi is a whole different level. But that's one of the biggest things to come out of this is Byron Donalds, one of the biggest winners out of this whole thing.
To Republican members, it seems to me you have two sides that are very dug in. You have a test of wills. There's no indication that the opposition to McCarthy is going to dissipate anytime soon, and there's absolutely no indication that McCarthy is considering standing down. And barring one of those two events, this goes on, and I think it's going to go on for some time.
Okay, yeah, we've got Rachel Scott on the phone now, who just got that interview with Byron Donalds just outside on the hills of the Capitol there. So, Rachel, tons of great questions. Really great reaction from Donalds. It's the first time we had a chance to hear from him. First of all, what do you make of the interview?
Oh, well, listen, I think he is optimistic here that a deal is going to somehow be sorted out, that this is going to pan out. And interesting for him to fire back at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who had some pretty strong words about the chaos that we're seeing unfold here on Capitol Hill. There is no way around it. I mean, you said it, Kira, at the top of the show. There is no functioning government in Congress at this point. It is fascinating to hear that he was somewhat surprised that he was nominated to be Speaker. That's not something that he expected going into today. But McCarthy has also made it clear he doesn't care how many names they have to go down in the conference. He believes that by the end of this, he will be able to be the next Speaker of the House. Donald's here, though, still is optimistic, and he says that he would like to see some changes when it comes to the House rule changes, when it comes to what it's going to take to remove a possible Speaker of the House. He believes that they'll all get together, but I also found it interesting that he also said that McCarthy didn't really necessarily reach out to him today to try to persuade him, and that's also something that I heard from Congresswoman Lauren Boebert earlier today. I saw her at the start of the House convening, and she told me that she hasn't heard from Kevin McCarthy at all, which is why that she is still a no. So I think at this point, everyone's just sort of scratching their heads. He said the wind is blowing, people are driving, Americans are still out and about, but still, the people of America do not have a functioning government at this point, and members are still waiting to be sworn in, Kira.
Yeah, that caught my attention too, Rachel. He's saying that everything's going along business as usual. But look, you and I both know without a functioning Congress, without a speaker, then Biden's agenda comes to a standstill and things don't get passed and we don't have movement. Are these members of Congress that we have voted in to represent our constituency can't do anything. And you know what? I think that Donalds would change his tune when he starts having constituents saying, hey, we need to get things done. We have we're suffering in this economy. We're paying a lot for gas. I think that whole tune will change quite quickly if this keeps going on and on and on. Question, you mentioned Boebert that you caught up with her actually saying that McCarthy should just withdraw. But you also asked Donalds what he thinks, and he didn't answer that question.
Yeah, at this point, he still believes that something could come together. And that's what I also think makes him so fascinating at this point, because he is someone who voted for McCarthy twice, and then he came back on that third ballot and he flipped. Now, I caught up with him moments after he decided to flip his vote and oppose Kevin McCarthy. And he told me at that point it was just clear that Kevin McCarthy didn't have the votes. And he kind of said, at this point, you make these concessions. You've been working for months at this. There's a question about if he needs to change his approach going forward. But he wouldn't go so far as to say that it's time for McCarthy to back out. So it seems like there's still some wiggle room there. I asked him yesterday as well whether or not he could see himself coming back around to Kevin McCarthy.
Well, that's because I think he was being authentic when he said that's up to Kevin McCarthy. He doesn't have the votes. He's going to have to either get them or not. I think they're reading too much into that.
Personal. I mean, you heard Lauren Boebert on the floor. We've been hearing some of these conservatives, Matt Gaetz calling Kevin McCarthy essentially a squatter in the speaker's office. I mean, so many of these conservatives just do not trust Kevin McCarthy flat out. And so even if he does prevail, Kira, I think there is a serious question about his leadership and whether or not he's going to be weakened as a speaker because of this staunch opposition that he's going to have in his party with a very razor-thin majority in the House.
Oh, yeah, total damage control. One more question. I know you're on the phone. You just got this interview with Byron Donalds. I know you've got to get back to the Hill. But if you don't mind, one more question regarding Byron Donalds. In his run for Congress in 2020, he aligned himself very closely with the former president, Donald Trump, casting himself to voters as, quote, a strong Trump-supporting, gun-owning, liberty-loving, pro-life, politically incorrect black man. Woo! So this guy, is someone that is not only voting for himself, but others have said, okay, this could be speaker. Is that going to fly when you see that basically the Trump endorsement did not do so well for Kevin McCarthy, really went nowhere, caused things to go backwards. And now you have someone who's standing up saying he could be an alternative. But boy, did he align himself closely with Trump.
And all of these members, the 20 Republicans that are against McCarthy at this point, most of them are extremely closely aligned to the former president. They back him. They back his policies. They are staunch supporters of Trump. And so to see that hasn't made any difference at all when it comes to Trump coming out and backing McCarthy, months ago. And then McCarthy even told me last night that he spoke to former President Donald Trump just yesterday and that he reiterated his support. I mean, that has not caused anybody to change their minds whatsoever here. Donald told us, look, he doesn't want to be Speaker of the House at this point. He did run for conference chair. He challenged Elise Stefanik earlier last year, and that's something that he lost. But to your point in terms...
Just to be clear, I don't think he has a legitimate chance to be Speaker. I wouldn't say that he doesn't want to be Speaker, though. I wouldn't say that. He just doesn't want to come across that way, which is smart. It's just smart politics. Donald Trump, early this morning on Truth, he truthed this. Some really good conversations took place last night, and it's time for all of our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin. Close the deal. Take the victory. And watch, all caps, watch crazy Nancy Pelosi fly back home to a very broken California, the only speaker in U.S. history to have lost the House twice. Republicans, do not turn a great triumph into a giant and embarrassing defeat. It's time to celebrate. You deserve it. Kevin McCarthy will do a good job, and maybe even a great job. Just watch. So that's Donald Trump's, how he's weighing in on this. It's not 2016 anymore, is it? Sometimes you... It reminds me of, I haven't done that in a while. I need to fix that. But it reminds me of a zombie show. So in 2016, Trump was trying to go into the House and eliminate the zombies. And in a way, he got bit. He became one of the zombies. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So when we're talking about the politics of this thing, they aren't the people that you once thought they were. I mean, that's clear. That's a fact. This isn't the same Donald Trump in 2016. That's just not him. So you can still support him, but just understand that he's not the same one. It is sad. I agree. I think some people said it was sad, but I don't want to leave it as a sad thing. Donald Trump paved the way, and you wouldn't have a Matt Gaetz. You wouldn't have this moment. You wouldn't have a Lauren Boebert, Carrie Lake, not as we know him, without Donald Trump paving the way. So that's not sad. I'm grateful for what Donald Trump did. That's not a sad moment. when you look at the big picture. Let's go back live.
Well, I think that's part of what was so interesting about Rachel's discussion there with Congressman Donalds, is that he might think there's still a deal to be brokered, but do 20 of them still think there's a deal to be brokered? I mean, we've heard from so many of them that have said they are not caving, that they are dug in, and with each one of these failed votes, they're feeling even more emboldened.
Just to give an update, there was a Hill story that Kevin McCarthy was negotiating, however, behind the scenes with Democrats to find a consensus speaker. Allegedly what happened, and the Hill has retracted this article. They retracted the article. I don't know what's true or not, but I find it funny. I would, if I were Kevin McCarthy, I would want them to retract that article. Allegedly, before they retracted it, Kevin McCarthy somehow went to Democrats and said, what can we do here? Exactly what I talked about yesterday. I would go to Nancy Pelosi. If I were a swamp creature, I would go to the best swamp creature of all time, or at least in the House right now, one of the best, Nancy Pelosi. And I'm sure Nancy Pelosi got it to Hakeem Jeffries and all them and said, if Kevin comes to you, say that you are open to negotiating, but here's what we need. Number one, it's not going to be Kevin. So they said that allegedly that it won't be Kevin. Number two, they said, we can do it, but we have to agree on who it is. It's somebody that we both agree on, some uniparty slime other than Kevin. Three, they wanted concessions on top of that. They wanted to head committees. And allegedly, Kevin McCarthy was listening to just listening, hearing them out, allegedly.
Are opposing this, congressional people-elect who are opposing Kevin McCarthy, have yet to come up with a candidate that can get more than 20 votes.
They don't need to come out with a candidate. Byron Donalds said, let's get into a room and figure it out. So Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and them, it's not up to them to find a candidate. It's the whole body of the group. So what you have is a bunch of zombies that will support Kevin McCarthy no matter what, because they don't want to take risks and all the political ramifications of it. So what you have to do is you need to get the 20 plus McCarthy and a couple others like Scalise in there to hash it out, because these zombie McCarthy voters, they're going to vote for whoever McCarthy tells them to, or whoever their masters tell them to. So they all actually don't need to get in a room. Most of these are NPCs. They're like, I'll do whatever is politically comfortable. I just want my job. I just want to keep my job. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm just here to have just like the person at your job that doesn't do a great job, doesn't do a bad job, does the bare minimum. They just want to keep their job. That's what most of them are. So actually, all of them don't need to get in a room. It's just a few, basically, who's controlling the opposition. Boebert doesn't need to be in the room. Chip Roy, Matt Gaetz, McCarthy, Byron I said McDonald's. I keep messing up his name. Byron Donalds and a couple others. That's the only people that need to get in the room and hash it out. But it's not up to Matt Gaetz to choose whoever it is. Matt Gaetz is like, I'm proposing people all over the place. All I've said is it's not McCarthy. So let's figure out who it is.
Okay, you heard it first right here. Heidi's calling it. We're going to hold you to it. We're also going to bring in ABC News contributor and former Republican representative here among Republicans.
Opposing this, congressional people-elect who are opposing Kevin McCarthy, have yet to come up with a candidate that can get more than 20 votes. The president famously said, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. Well, who is their alternative who could actually carry this?
Who said that?
Speakership to a positive and 218 vote majority. They don't have anyone. And so I think the question becomes, and Kevin McCarthy knows that. So he's going to sit there and he's going to take these votes and look worse and worse as time goes on. And it's going to take people, a substantial portion of the people who are supporting him, to come to him and say, it's time to realize it's not going to happen for you. Who do you want to be speaker? And I think the odds-on favorite at that point would be Scalise. And so it's just a matter.
All the people are saying Scalise. They would know better than me, maybe, but I don't see that. I don't see how it's Scalise. Maybe it could have been Scalise if McCarthy was negotiating it before. Now I don't see them going with Scalise. But this quote, I didn't know this quote from Joe Biden. What a terrible quote. What? Joe Biden on Twitter says, my dad used to say, this is just from October. My dad used to say, Joey, don't compare me to the almighty. Compare me to the alternative. Is it just me or is that a cringe quote? And here's the deal. He even does it in the tweets. Whoever he has running his account. Democrats want to codify Roe. Republicans want a national ban. The choice is clear. That's basically saying I'm trash, but you can't find anything better. It's like something an abusive spouse would say to their spouse. Never heard that quote before. To me, it sounds terrible, but it's coming from Brandon, no surprise. Let's see what the Kirkster's doing, Charlie Kirk.
And the endorsement from the House Freedom Caucus. There are 35 to 40 of us. And so we will move Kevin McCarthy right, because if he doesn't move to the right, nothing gets done up here. And that's the battle we should be having. Get the committee set, everybody in place, and then let's work for the American people and put the American people first.
How are you going to move Kevin McCarthy right when you can't even move him off of the speaker vote? He already moved into the office. I'm going to get to that story in a second, how Matt Gaetz said, I'm going to send you an eviction notice. One of the best moments in Congress I've seen ever since following Congress. He moved into the speaker's office. You're not the speaker. So how are you going to move him right and you can't even get him out of the office when he's not speaker? Don't come to me like I'm some type of idiot. This isn't good, Troy.
Yeah, and so I guess you know the Freedom Caucus people very well. Are they showing a willingness to budge? They seem to be no Kevin or bust. So then how is this impasse going to be broken?
I've had conversations with members of the 20, and I said, there was an issue here as it related to vacate the chair, Charlie, which is a privilege motion. Nancy Pelosi removed it. We wanted it brought back, and they negotiated, and McCarthy got it down to 5 members that can call that privileged motion. There are some of the members that said, no, it should only be 1 member that should be able to call that. And I said, okay, if Kevin would be willing to reduce it from 5 down to 1, would that change anybody's mind of the 20? And I couldn't get an answer. So I think this is more, Charlie, of a trust issue. I think there are members of our caucus, right or wrong, they just have a trust issue with Kevin McCarthy, and it's getting pretty personal up here, I believe. I believe it's getting pretty personal, but I think this is embarrassing for our conference. I think the American people gave us the gavel November 8th, and they're expecting.
Troy Neal's calling this embarrassing. Why? I'm pausing it, so I'm going to continue with Charlie here. But if I was talking to him, I'm like, who is this embarrassing to, Troy? Who are you talking about? You talking about the people that hate you, that call you magats? Those people? Like, are you in touch with your constituents? Or maybe that's the truth. Do your constituents, where did you get that from, Troy? Who's it embarrassing to? Is it embarrassing to CNN, MSNBC, or is it embarrassing to your constituents? How did you get that information? He needs to be tested on that. Maybe he is hearing it from his constituents. I don't know. But even if they were saying that's embarrassing, then it's your job to say, well, no, this is not embarrassing. We've got to hash this out.
Leadership. They're begging for leadership because we don't have it under this White House and this Congress. And so now we have an opportunity to lead, and we're fumbling the football today.
Yeah, and it seems as if that fumbling is only going to continue. And so one of my suggestions to the House Freedom Caucus, and I spent a lot of time on the phone with some of them last evening trying to get clarity here, is be clear about what you are trying to accomplish. If it is personal, then say it's personal. They say something along the lines of the Rules Committee and the Steering Committee and motion to vacate. Motion to vacate, it seems to be getting worked out. I don't know. Can you just educate our listeners? I think it would be helpful for me too. What is the Steering Committee and the Rules Committee, and why did that in particular drive this thing towards bedlam?
Well, that was an issue early on, and Nancy Pelosi removed vacate the chair 2 years ago. And what that is a privilege motion where any member can get on the House floor and say, I make a motion to vacate the chair, meaning you would have another vote for speaker. That means you want this speaker removed, right? You want to vacate that chair, that speaker's chair. And Nancy Pelosi removed it. Initially, early on, Kevin didn't seem like he wanted to bring it back. And then there were negotiations. We thought initially the conversation was a majority of the majority, meaning if there's 222 of us and the majority of the 222 want to make that privileged motion, let's do it. It's been reduced down to the 5 of us. 5 members can get up there and make that motion, and then you would have a vote. Again, we go through the same process like we're doing right now, Charlie. We'd have the same process. And so it hasn't been abused in the past 100 years. I think it was been done one time in 100 years where they did actually a motion to vacate the chair, and that was Speaker Cannon back in 1909, I believe. So it's not abused. I think it's good to have it. Nancy Pelosi pulled it, and we've had it here for a couple 100 years. Kevin says, let's bring it back. 5 members, whether.
So they're saying that if at any time it sounds like 5 members could have another vote to fire Kevin McCarthy, that's not a concession to me. I would like that to be there and stay there, but that's not, I can't speak for them. I don't know what they're talking about behind the scenes, but that doesn't excite me. Does that excite you? You just go through the same process here that you have in here. So I guess it would mean something. I have to understand if 5 people call to change the speaker, whatever that process is called, is the speaker done? Or is it still Kevin McCarthy until you get the votes for a new one? Is what I would want to know. It is more powerful than I initially just thought. If it says, okay, we have 5 people to fire him, you're fired until we vote for a new one. That is a little bit of power, but I don't know if it is 5 people want to fire him. If you can't get the votes for somebody else, then he just stays. That would be a waste of time.
Down to 1 member. I still don't know if that's going to move the 20. I don't think it's going to move the 20 people that are saying no to McCarthy.
Yeah, and so and then is there anything on the Rules Committee or Steering Committee? That's what the Freedom Caucus people are telling me, that they need representation on these committees. What's the significance of that?
Well, I think the committee assignments are very, very important, but the committee assignments are.
If it's just a call to vote, thank you, GB, then I'm out. Then it means nothing to me. So it's nice, but I don't care if that's what it is. And if you're in the chat, let me know. I'm trying to monitor who's speaking. If something's happening, I'll jump to wherever we need to jump.
Are done by a steering committee, and there's different regions across the country. And so the different regions, they select their steering committee reps. In the state of Texas, we have a total of 3 of them. And I believe there's about 30 or 31. And those steering committee reps they are the ones that will draft and assign these committees to these different personnel. Now, if you want to get the gavel of one of the committees, you want the gavel and be the chairman, you have to conduct an interview. You have to go in front of the steering committee and sell yourself. Now, the speaker and the majority leader and the whip, they get a few more votes. I mean, a steering member gets 1, but McCarthy as the speaker, he would get 4. I believe Steve Scalise 3 and the whip 2. So they have a little bit more influence. But still, if you want to get on a committee, yes, McCarthy has some influence, but you also got to reach out to the other members of the steering committee and sell yourself and say, this is why you want that gavel.
And so then the House Committee on Rules would, what do? They set the parameters of how
this is great
the House
stuff.
conducts.
I apologize. I want to listen to this again. Gosh, I always go back too far, but let me see. I do want to listen to this again. That was very good stuff.
No to McCarthy.
Yeah, and so and then is there anything on the Rules Committee or Steering Committee? That's what the Freedom Caucus people are telling me, that they need representation on these committees. What's the significance of that?
Well, I think the committee assignments are very, very important, but the committee assignments are done by a steering committee. And there's different regions across the country. And so the different regions, they select their steering committee reps. In the state of Texas, we have a total of 3 of them. And I believe there's about 30 or 31. And those steering committee reps they are the ones that will draft and assign these committees to these different personnel. Now, if you want to get the gavel of one of our committees, you want the gavel and be the chairman, you have to conduct an interview. You have to go in front of the steering committee and sell yourself. Now, the speaker and the majority leader and the whip, they get a few more votes. I mean, a steering member gets 1, but McCarthy as the speaker, he would get 4. I believe Steve Scalise 3 and the whip 2. So they have a little bit more influence. But still, if you want to get on a committee, yes, McCarthy has some influence, but you also got to reach out to the other members of the steering committee and sell yourself and say, this is why you want that gavel.
And so then the House Committee on Rules would, what do? They set the parameters of how the House conducts business. Is that right?
Yes, and what really reaches the floor. There are some concerns about members that said that the speaker is the one that's going to determine what the floor votes on, what goes to the floor. And you know, right, wrong, and different, we want to make sure, I believe if I was the speaker, I would want to make sure that when we are voting on legislation as the majority, that it has the 218 to pass. You don't want to start putting legislation on the floor as the majority, and all of a sudden we can't pass the legislation in our own party. So there's some pros and cons to all of that, but I just believe that we can hold, the Freedom Caucus can hold Kevin McCarthy accountable.
No, I don't like that. I'm not feeling Troy here. This is great information though for me to break down. I was taking notes here. That last piece from Troy, I do not like. Let me repeat it. Troy Niels, if you're just listening, that's Troy Niels on the Charlie Kirk Show, says the House Committee on Rules. So you've got MAGA as the small faction versus the machine. I don't have the sweater on right now. MAGA versus the machine. The machine has the numbers. So what MAGA is saying is they're concerned that the machine decides what reaches the floor. They're saying the speaker is the one that determines what vote reaches the floor. That's what the force the vote was. Nancy Pelosi is the one who decided if, doesn't matter if you want it or not, but universal health care came to the floor to vote. So Jimmy Dore said, well, you guys have to leverage it to get the power to do that. So that's what MAGA is saying is we want the power. We don't like Kevin McCarthy with the power of deciding what reaches the floor. And then Troy, this is irrelevant. This is out of the blue. Troy Niels says, I would want to make sure that when we are voting that it has the 218 to pass. That's irrelevant. Oh, I mean, that's nice that you told us your philosophy, but everybody doesn't have to have the philosophy. What Troy Niels is worried about is getting something to the floor like abolish the ATF. There's literally a bill from Marjorie Taylor Greene on abolishing the ATF. So Troy Niels is like, well, I don't want that bill to be voted on if we don't have the votes. Why not? Why wouldn't you want that, Troy? Because I don't know Troy that well, but it sounds like he's in the machine to me. I mean, that's a machine take.
Because we are more relevant today than we've been in the past, because we have such a slim majority, 4 seats, 222 of us, takes 218 to pass any legislation, and there's got to be 35 to 40 of us in the Freedom Caucus. And Kevin's going to know, he's going to realize, if I want anything to pass and send it to the Senate, which may be dead on arrival because the Senate is so dysfunctional.
I will say I'm still a supporter of Thomas Massie. He's a little bit different because he's not a MAGA guy. So I think from where he stands, he doesn't really care who is speaker. And I can understand it. I don't know his position. I'll have to dig into it more. But maybe I don't really look at it as bad for him to be voting for McCarthy. So maybe that's right or wrong. I'll have to think through my thoughts on Thomas Massie, but he's kind of an outsider. Is he a libertarian? He's more of like a libertarian type. So I don't know.
But if we want anything to leave the House, he's going to need the endorsement, support, and the stamp of approval from the House Freedom Caucus.
And that's if we can end up getting a speaker, right? And so what some of the Freedom Caucus people are saying, well, let's just go for Scalise or anybody but Kevin. That's a troubling proposition in some ways, is it not? I mean, it's the old adage, be careful what you wish for.
Wait. Why is that troubling? I don't want Scalise, but I don't understand why that's troubling. Scalise is no worse than McCarthy at all.
Sure.
It would be swamp creature for swamp creature. I know that would be kind of a, taking a bishop for a knight or a bishop for bishop, knight for knight in the chess game, but at least you're on the offensive. Same Kevin McCarthy. So Scalise, if the same type of stuff happens from the midterms to whatever your topics are, from the pandemic, J6, if you are a failure just like McCarthy was, we'll at least swamp you out for a swamp creature. That means something.
Sure, and I've talked to Steve Scalise, and Steve Scalise, when we made him the majority leader, he loved that. That's the position that he wants. I don't think he doesn't want to be the speaker. I know Jim Jordan talked to him yesterday. He didn't want to be the speaker, and Steve Scalise wants to be the majority leader. So, and Steve Scalise yesterday was on the floor, and he nominated McCarthy for speaker. So all I'm saying is that if we have identified the problem, and McCarthy's the problem, you have to have a workable solution to the problem. And right now, I don't see that. I just don't see it. And I think the conference as a whole, when you've got...
So he says he doesn't see a solution to the problem. So that's why you get into a room and figure it out. The same thing's going to happen when you do a committee, a hearing, a bill, a vote. You don't see a solution to the problem, you're going to have to get into a room and work it out. That's your job. That's literally the job of politics. I know it's turned into BSing, lying, and raising money, but that is actually your job. To get a consensus. Kevin McCarthy has proven he's not the right person for speaker, so you should be in a room saying whoever it is. Troy sounds terrible here.
You're down 1-5. You've got over 200 that are supporting McCarthy, and you've got 20 that are supporting anybody but McCarthy. We are at an impasse right now, and the longer we continue to do this...
There is power. Our government is set up this way. That's why it's set up this way. There is power when you don't have... So you say, well, McCarthy has 200 plus votes, and there's only 20 that are going the other way. And so that 20 are stopping the process. Just like Kirsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, you got 2 Democrats, purplish people, whatever. They don't vote for everything. They can stop the bill. That's how it's set up. I don't know what that kind of take that is.
I think the more disappointed the American people as a whole are going to be, specifically the Republican Party. Now, some feel that this is the right thing to do because it's a swamp up here and we have to change direction. No question about it. We have to do things different up here. We are at a fiscal mismanagement, $31 trillion. We've got the southern border. But if you look at Kevin McCarthy's plan with the commitment to America, I think it's a step in the right direction. He has made concessions as it relates to rules, the Republican conference rules and House rules. He's made some concessions and accepted those. So I don't understand why we are doing this. This is I don't believe this is healthy. And hell, we could be here until July.
Be here till July. You know who wins in that situation? Hunter Biden. He can't believe that he's getting away with it. Thanks so much.
And that's the point, Charlie. That's the point. We got investigations we have to conduct. And when you got Jim Jordan as the chair of judiciary, you got Comer as government oversight, we can start pushing back and holding the Democrats accountable for their irresponsible policies, spending, and activities they've had over the past 2 years. Let's get to work and put the American people first.
Troy Nels from the 22nd District of the great state of Texas, thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. In the online betting markets, Steve Scalise is now most likely to become Speaker of the House. So you're going to get a much more liberal speaker if that ends up being the case. If Steve Scalise becomes Speaker, it'll make Paul Ryan look like a radical right-winger.
Ridiculous. And this is absolutely ridiculous, Charlie. They're the same people. I agree. It's swamp for swamp. Okay. So then why don't you agree with that and move on? I don't think it's going to be Scalise because I don't think at this point it's too late to work out a Scalise. It's going to have to be somebody else. I still say it's going to be Jordan. I have not changed that stance.
want to tell you guys about COVID tax relief. Fly into D.C. and some people will say, well, Charlie, if he's not able to do the deal, then it will make him look bad. Well, look, at some point, you gotta take some risk. Do you think that getting Israel and Saudi Arabia to have a peace deal is somehow easier than getting 16 Republicans, all of which in heavy MAGA districts, to come together and to support a speaker if it's Kevin or somebody else? No, Donald Trump, he redid the Commodore Hotel. He built the downtown Park Hyatt. He got the impossible Trump Tower deal done with the air rights over Tiffany's. Donald Trump redid NAFTA. Donald Trump, in one afternoon, over a couple Diet Cokes and McDonald's, could get this speaker's race sorted out. I hope he does. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com.
What makes you think he could do that? I haven't seen anything that makes me think that he could get it done.
And the stream's going to keep going.
Okay, so they're going on a break here. I'm going to see if there's anything going on and see if I have time to do the Matt Gaetz letter, the eviction notice. You've got to see this. I'll clip it and upload it later. If you miss it, I got to go. But oh man, this was so good.
He hold firm and try and change the rules, or does he now look at an option to get someone that he can work with, that he...
So you hear her talking about it's Kevin's last chance to be speaker. There's nobody who cares about that other than Kevin. No, nobody give a damn. Looks like this is different. One present vote. So I think I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene in an interview earlier today say that there was one Republican, I think, that voted present as a protest vote. That's actually more votes going against. Well, I don't know how you could look. You could look at a present vote actually in benefit of Jeffries. But if it was a Republican, it could be a protest for McCarthy, knowing that Jeffries wouldn't have the numbers. But let me see what they're saying here.
Well, it may take another day, because one thing he did do today is he canceled the morning meeting so that the members weren't together and weren't talking about this. So what I've heard from member was, we need to get together. The members need to be in the room and have a discussion. Now, I do think, if members are getting frustrated, like I guess Ken Buck did speak about that already publicly, I think there's already discussion privately about we need to have a plan B. If those members start getting behind a plan B, I do think the plan B is most likely to be Steve Scalise. And so when does that happen and who breaks that? But I think if that does break, you want to have it break altogether, so that you move and you make that pretty effectively, happen. But I think, where did this go wrong? This went wrong thinking that Donald Trump was going to deliver on anything. Look, I think it's, all these people who were afraid of Donald Trump and have been catering to Donald Trump, these 19 have all just, given the finger to Donald Trump. Yeah, you're calling, you heard what Lauren Boebert say, hey, you're calling me, but yeah, I'm not going to do what you said, Donald Trump. Here's what you should be doing, Donald Trump. But I would point out, I do think, these guys, whatever they're doing to Kevin McCarthy, and they may do him in, I do think for a number of them, it's going to be a murder-suicide pact. I don't think you're going to see Lauren Boebert coming back because she only won by 5.
Okay, so that's BS. Trump had nothing to do with all that. I don't know how they tried to tie that into blaming Trump for it. I think Trump made the wrong endorsement, but this is ultimately a House stuff. Like, even if Trump is president, he's not really. This is the House. So I don't agree with that at all. But it's ABC.
100 votes. She's already made a lot of enemies. She's going to be primaried, and I think probably primaried pretty effectively and have nowhere to go. And, plenty of Democrats against her, but Republicans will be happy to line up against her. I think a number of these others have also made themselves, part of the ineffective caucus. You can already write the ads, here we won a majority, then these buffoons went out and, tried to squander. So I think, whatever they do to Kevin McCarthy, they're going to see it come back at them in 2 years.
Okay, it's just another trash analyst that doesn't know what they're talking about. But look at this letter here. If you have not seen this, Matt Gaetz tweets, the Speaker of the House office in the Capitol is currently being occupied by Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy is not the Speaker of the House. He lost 3 consecutive votes today, and we know he's lost 4 now. Matt Gaetz says, I'm demanding answers from the architect of the Capitol. I've never heard of that in my life. The Honorable J. Brett Blanton, 12th architect of the Capitol. Dear Mr. Blanton, I write to inform you that the Speaker of the House office located in the U.S. Capitol building is the same one with the famous picture of the dude from J6 with his feet up, I believe. U.S. Capitol building is currently occupied by Representative Kevin McCarthy. As of this morning, the 117th Congress adjourned, signed, I don't know how to pronounce that, and a speaker from the 118th Congress has not been elected. After 3 undeciding votes, no member can lay claim to this office. What is the basis in law, House rule, or precedent to allow someone who has placed second in 3 successive speaker elections to occupy the Speaker of the House office? How long will he remain there before he is considered a squatter? Please write back promptly, as it seems Mr. McCarthy can no longer be considered Speaker designate following today's balloting. Sincerely, Matt Gaetz, Member of Congress. Matt Gaetz said, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. Matt Gaetz said, do I need to call security? There's this random Negro in the Speaker office. Matt Gaetz was like, there's this random bum, and he's squatting in the Speaker's office. I don't know who he is. He kind of reminds me of the male version of Nancy Pelosi, but I need security. Could somebody help me out? Does it sound like Matt Gaetz is playing games? If you're playing poker, does it sound like he's bluffing? He wrote a letter calling him a squatter, basically. Matt Gaetz wrote a letter to the architect of the Capitol, basically, not exactly, but pretty much calling Kevin McCarthy a squatter. It was like he was some random person off the street that had just parked in the office. I mean, this could escalate. I mean, it seriously could escalate to security having to move his ass out of there. Kevin, I hope you didn't get too comfortable, because I hope the boxes aren't put away. You know how sometimes it's hard to get boxes? I hope you kept the same boxes, because you're going to have to load that stuff right back on there. It doesn't look like he's walking back from this. He could. Gaetz and them could. And I will still give them credit. Let's say they walk back from it right now. We'll see what they say and all that. I would still give them credit, because this takes courage. They told one of the most powerful money-raising people in D.C., very powerful dude, don't get it twisted, Kevin McCarthy. I mean, really, you should be even scared. I mean, not scared, but concerned. Like, I barely even say Hillary C's name, because I don't want those problems. I barely say Billy G's full name, because I don't want those problems. Billy G said that he has people monitor. Well, I don't know. I have to look up the article, but the article that I read said that Billy G has people monitoring the internet to see who's anti-Billy G. So I bring that up to say Kevin McCarthy is not at their level. He's not at the Polly P, Nancy P level, but he's up there. For Matt Gaetz to say, get your ish packed and get the hell up out of here, that's something, man. That's not something to. This is a historic moment. This has never happened before. We've never had a member of Congress tell someone who moved into the Speaker office what law allows you to be there, and I need you to, if you don't move out, he basically put an eviction notice on this bruh's door. If you're not moved out by 5 p.m. today, your stuff's going to be out in the street. This is not a position you come back from. Kevin McCarthy's not going to be speaker. That's just what I'm going to say. But I'm the same person that said there was going to be a red wave. So take it in stride. Let me know what you think. I love that letter, man. That is so good. That is so good. It was all worth it just for that letter. It was all worth it. I wish they would have had other people sign on to that too. That would have been crazy. We are in uncharted territory, everybody. Let's take a look.
Customized to you and your interests.
This is the ABC News feed. Let's see what's up with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's been doing a great job covering it. I've had some disagreements with him. I just want to make sure I say I'm grateful for his coverage. His coverage has been amazing. The biggest loser, you see some smiles here. They're not going to be smiling much longer. But the biggest loser, I do hate to say that, it is Trump. Trump is the biggest loser out of all of this. Like nobody, he's that old guy that walks in the room and he doesn't have that same, no, he's the guy, he can still do rallies and all that, but the aura is gone. It's all 100% gone from Trump. So this is just the C-SPAN feed. I will stay here until Charlie is back. Thanks for joining, just getting random thoughts out. Big days, I just feel like I needed to go live. It's a big investment, but I appreciate it. I had School the World. School the World has entered the building. What's up? Thanks for stopping by. We're just hanging out, talking about the speaker stuff. Hopefully your family's doing well. Everybody in the chat, School of the World, and everybody else. Hopefully everybody's doing well. We can have a great 2023. Start off with a bang with the politics and stuff, but hopefully personal life is good. My oldest, we're going to get him playing basketball. So he's tried soccer. He's tried, he likes soccer. Flag football, he had fun with that. I actually posted a video with him getting a touchdown in flag football, me being a proud papa. And we're going to try basketball. He did tennis too. I played tennis back in the day, if you did not know. It's a great sport, great individual sport. School of the World's in the building. Casual Goats. The meme magic no longer touches Trump. It seeks a new wielder. So a lot of people, memes, they're still going to do the memes, and thanks for stopping by, Casual Goats. They're still going to do the memes of Trump. He's still that iconic type of figure. And so I don't mean to disrespect him like that, but and he might still be the nominee because he can threaten. He has threatened to go third party. Donald Trump has threatened to go third party, and that's a threat that even the uniparty kind of doesn't like that, because even though they're on the same team, if you're on the uniparty red team and Trump basically wipes you out any chance you have, you lose status in that uniparty building. So at the end of the day, they probably don't care if Trump goes third party because he probably wouldn't win, and then that would guarantee an establishment person winning, but it would probably mean an establishment blue team. So who knows? But here the good news to me is Trump has 4 more years, and then after that, everything will have to be figured out. If I had my say, I would do Carrie Lake in a heartbeat. She embodies everything, the professionalism, doesn't back down, can handle the media. What she's doing with her trials in Arizona is impressive, showing me that she can take these lawsuits where they've never gone before, not messing with the BS, only taking to hard facts, and she's unearthing corruption. Carrie Lake, to me, by far, is the number one. Did I put her on? Well, if none of them have announced, I still put Comic Dave Smith as number 1, but he has not announced. But Carrie Lake is right up there. Okay, Casual Goat says there'll be plenty of memes, but that mimetic culture magic, that's what I'm talking about. Yep, that will be held by another individual. Yeah. We'll see who that will be. I don't know who that will be. There's no one that really approaches the iconic status that Trump got to. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. In the chat, tell me. It could be. Wait. Casual, can you clarify? Casual Goats, I quote, I'd probably do Carrie Lake in a heartbeat with the googly eyes. Casual, maybe you know what? Don't stop. Don't even clarify it. Casual Goats, don't clarify it. I think we're on the same page. It's meant in all ways possible. I'd do her as president. I mean, I would support her as president. I would do her as a meme, as mimetic magic, and I'd just do her. I'm happily married, just joking, but she is attractive. Casual Goats, get me in trouble. Oh my God, Casual Goats, friend of the show. Go check out, if you haven't seen, did an interview with Casual Goats. Go to the live section of the channel. Great discussion. We'll be doing more. GB, sorry, School of the World, or any women in the chat. We're going off on a side tangent with Carrie Lake. And I really do believe, though, it's not just looks. I really do believe that. Because I would say Amber Heard in her prime is like probably one of the most, I would put up there. But I don't even look at her like that. And I think Carrie Lake, like I talked with a friend of show, Will Cormier, and he was talking about how he thinks AOC is attractive. And I was like, I'm not really there. And I wonder how much of that is just who she is, the personality, Like if Carrie Lake acted like AOC, would I still think she was attractive? I don't know. Casual Goats talking about Amber Heard. So this was alleged, if you didn't hear about, came out during the trial, I think it came out. He said that Amber Heard is hot, but she relieves herself in the bed. And the School of the World said, I do Carrie Lake too. I love her. Everybody loves Carrie Lake in the chat. So wishing her the best with the lawsuit. I will be doing a video on where it's at right now. She's not giving up. So that's why I don't talk about her as president too much, because she's got unfinished business. Look at Byron Donalds working the room. This bra has made a come up. He has become quickly a leader, taking advantage of this moment, and he's earned it. Earned this moment. The relationships you build, he doesn't, he's not, you can't, and Matt Gaetz is not trying to be hateful to the establishment. He's not. So I'm bringing that up because Byron Donalds is not hateful to the establishment. And I like that. He's not hateful to anybody, just principled. So good to see Jim Jordan here talking with, I don't recognize everybody in the house. I don't think they're talking anything big here. But I think Jim Jordan is the one, but all the people in the know say Jim Jordan is a hard no. I don't know why. When you talk about Steve Scalise, they're talking about what they look at is who can raise money. So I don't know if Jim Jordan is a money raiser like Steve Scalise. Steve Scalise and Kevin McCarthy are big money raisers, Kevin McCarthy in particular. And their concern is you kick Kevin McCarthy out, you don't raise the money, but that money wasn't used where it needed to be used. I talked about that with the SBF stuff. I might look to bring that up to. Let me put the audio while I look for that stuff. We can go to the ABC feed. They're just doing their break or whatever. I thought Charlie Kirk would come back, but maybe not. Let's see what ABC's talking about. And then I'm going to look for that.
State of New York has received 212.
Oh, okay.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 201. The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 20. With one recorded as present. No member-elect having received a majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida rise?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I rise today to nominate Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the People's House.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
My colleagues, well, it's Groundhog Day. Again, and if it's all right with you, I would like to... Thank you, Madam Clerk. If it's all right with you all, I would like to address not you, but the American people. Because, quite frankly, they are... Well, we don't have a speaker yet. So, the American people, well, they are our boss, and we work for them. Yesterday, as we were here on the House floor, our constituents from all around the country made their voices heard. Today, the calls, the text messages, emails, they all continue. People are letting their voice be heard, and that is a very, very good thing. Because that is what we are, after all, a constitutional republic that serves all Americans, not just a select few. To all Americans watching right now, I want to tell you that we hear you. We hear you, and we will get this right. No matter how messy this process is, we will emerge better for having been through this, because nothing great ever comes easy. For the last several months, negotiations have gone back and forth over a rules package to make this chamber, your chamber, a better place to deliver better results for you, the American people. And I want to remind everyone watching, listening here in this chamber, that this chamber and this body, our country, we are bigger than a single person or a single moment in time. We are a nation collectively of great people, great patriots, and great moments of courage. The rules package that has been highlighted by so many of my colleagues dictates how this chamber functions, how bills come to the floor, how much time we get to read these bills, whether or not we will get single-issue bills, and whether or not we can vote proxy. And as you have witnessed from events yesterday, so many people have said, what are the next steps? What will we accomplish if we continue down this current path? Will we wake up tomorrow and be in this exact same place? The people calling my office said over and over and over again, it is time to get to work. Anything less is unacceptable. And you know, as we stood on this House floor yesterday, and again today, over 200 people were poisoned from fentanyl. Fentanyl that came from an open border because of the Biden open border policy. Over 5,000 people were encountered at the border because of Biden's open border policies. These are the issues that people care about. They don't sit around their kitchen tables at night saying, I wonder who's going to be speaker. No, they elect people to come here to do the things that matter, the issues that impact them every single day. And in an era of uncertainty, the last thing they need is uncertainty within this chamber. We were elected to be the voice of our constituents. We are their voice in this chamber. And they didn't send us to be perpetual critics. They sent us to get things done. And as we all know, because after all, we are in politics, the line of critics is always long. But the list of those that are actually rolling up their sleeves and doing the difficult job of leading, of uniting, of delivering results, especially in a chamber like this, well, that list is very short. Kevin McCarthy has proved that he can get things done. He has proven that he is willing to stand up in the face of critics and not only prove them wrong, but work with them. The only thing sovereign in this republic are its people, and they have deemed it right to place a check on the Biden administration and put our party, the Republican Party, in control of this chamber. Now is the time that we take control. I understand a lack of trust among some of our colleagues. I do.
Will the House be in order?
I understand a lack of trust among some of our colleagues. But what I am asking is that we all trust the American people who sent our colleagues here. This House is the only part of the federal government that stands for election every 2 years. Therefore, this chamber is an instrument of the people's will. And the people have overwhelmingly voted for Kevin McCarthy. If we continue down this road, if we continue with the actions of yesterday and today, we stifle the will of the American people. The changes to the rules of this place and how it functions have been overwhelmingly positive in the last few weeks. Legislation stands ready. It is time to unite, roll up our sleeves, and get to work doing the people's business. The gentleman, my friend, Kevin McCarthy from California, has done more than anyone in this chamber to secure a Republican majority. Many of the people who are members here today are, quite frankly, here because of his leadership, because they have trusted him, and he has gone out of his way to make sure that every single one of us has had a voice at the table. Furthermore, every single returning Republican in this chamber who cast a vote 2 years ago in the last Congress voted for Kevin McCarthy as our leader. We were united then, and we must unify now. That's the only way to start the people's business, the very reason that we're all here. It's to unify and get to work. Because we must commit to unity instead of division, because we owe it to the American people who sent us here. We must choose to lead in the face of a liberal Senate and Obama's JV team in the White House. We owe it to the American people. The American people sent a conservative majority to govern this body, but we cannot even begin to govern because, heck, we can't even swear in as members of Congress. I've traveled the country for the last 2 years as the youngest Republican woman in the 117th Congress, helping to secure a majority of members who are on both sides of today's Republican vote. Diversity of thought is a good thing. It's one of the things that sets us apart from our friends on the other side of the aisle. Yes, diversity of thought is a good thing. But they want us divided. They want us to fight each other. That much has been made clear by the popcorn and blankets and alcohol that is coming over there. The House is not in order. The House is not in order.
One of the worst speeches I've heard in a while.
The clerk would ask all members-elect to abide by the established decorum of the House while making nominations. Gentlewoman is recognized.
As evidenced by my colleagues' actions, so today I am asking my friends and colleagues, are we the party of Reagan Republicans? Reagan, who said, someone who is with me 80% of the time is a loyal and good friend, not a 20% traitor. Are we the party of Reagan? That is the question that I ask you to answer as we embark on this next ballot. It's upon us to remain a nation of equal opportunity, not equal outcome. That is what is on the line here today, and that is why I am nominating Kevin McCarthy, and I humbly ask for your support. Madam Clerk, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, the lead vote getter in the last 5 rounds.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Clerk, Democrats are united behind a speaker who will build safer communities. He's a leader in gun violence prevention. He's worked to make our criminal justice system more fair, more equitable, and more effective, and he's done it working with both sides of the aisle. A leader who has a track record in actually getting things done. And he understands that public safety, public health, and economic opportunity must go hand in hand. That's why, at the direction of the Democratic Caucus, I advance the name of Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn, New York, as our next Speaker for the 118th Congress.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Madam Speaker, to nominate the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Donalds.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what your political persuasion, one thing is universally recognized across this country. Washington is broken. Washington is completely broken. Whether it's a wide open border, millions of people streaming across, terrorists, criminals, fentanyl coming right to your community, not at the border, but into your community. Overdoses happening in your towns, funerals happening in your town because the border's open, because this place is broken. 12 days ago, in the middle of the night, 4,000 pages showed up over here. 1.7 trillion dollars in spending, 7,200 earmarks, 24 hours time to read it, like a Christmas tree right before Christmas, that nobody outside of this town wanted. If you've been here for 1 year, you voted on that once. If you've been here for 3 years, you voted on the same thing 3 times. If you've been here for 10 years, you voted on it 10 times. Washington is broken. We got crime running across the streets, no matter what community you're in, because now this town has decided that somehow the criminals aren't understood, and we've abandoned the victims. This is what people in our country are dealing with. We are funding wars in other countries while we're destroying our own military because this town is broken. We have an administration that has contempt for the American people and is using these big corporations to spy on Americans and using the instruments of federal power to persecute and prosecute them because this town is broken. And this place is literally broken. There hasn't been an amendment on the floor for 6 years in this town. So if you're not on the committee of jurisdiction, but it affects your citizens, well, too bad for you. You just vote yes or you just vote no. That's not how this place was designed to be. We vote on bills that have all kinds of things that have nothing to do with the bill itself. Everybody came here because they said to their constituents, this town is broken, and I want to fix it. Well, how are you going to fix it if you come to this town and just step right in line and keep doing the same things that everybody has done before you? It's not going to fix it, and the American people know it. And I would say this. I think the person that has done the most to make this fabulous this wonderful Republican majority is Speaker Pelosi and her policies. That's what has achieved this majority over here, because the American people are sick and tired of it, and they've had enough of it. Now, this is not about personalities. It's not about personalities. It's about the policies that come out of here. This is not about personalities on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. We believe, and we want to believe, and we want to believe that every person that comes here, left, right, center, has the best intentions for our country. The best intentions for our country. And it's not about the personalities in this contest. It is not personal for us. But because we all acknowledge and we all know that Washington is broken, we must take a new path. There must be a new vision so that Congress works for the American people. Because the American people are watching what's happening here, and they've watched what's happened here, and they're sure in their hearts, and they can prove it, that this town works for this town. That's who this town is working for. Ladies and gentlemen, we are making history today. We are making history in this process. And we are showing the American people that this process works. Yeah, it's been about 100 years. It's been about 100 years since this has happened before. But we have said we're not going to take any more of Washington being broken. We're going to do something for the American people, and we're going to fix it. And is it going to be painful? And is it going to be difficult? Yeah, it probably is. That's why it took 100 years. It probably is. But we're going to do it. And we can also make history today by making the first...
Will the House be in order?
By electing the first Black Republican Speaker of the House. Yes, thank you. Now, as my colleagues probably know, the first Black members of Congress to serve in this body were Republicans. As a matter of fact, you probably also know that Frederick Douglass, who went and worked with Abraham Lincoln to emancipate the people of color in this country, said he would never be anything but a Republican, I am here to nominate Byron Donalds because he has accomplished many things. He is a man of faith. He is a family man. He is a businessman, and he is a man of community service. He's come from the school of hard knocks, because not all outcomes in life are equal, but America is the place where we can each do great things regardless of our humble beginnings, each one of us. Now, Byron is a product of single family where it's not easy, but he has succeeded in America, and that's a testament to what we have created here and what we're trying to save. He's got a record of accomplishing things. He has a record of being on the right side. He is respected, he is trusted, he is capable, and he achieves results. Now, Byron has a big mind, and he's big in stature as well. He's very nice, but I will tell you this, in the negotiation with Chuck Schumer, I sure will want to be on the other side of Byron Donalds. He knows who he is, he knows what his foundation is, and he knows that Washington is broken, and what Chuck Schumer sends over here isn't going to work out for the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, Washington is broken. Byron Donalds will inspire us and restore our citizens' faith that this institution actually works for them. And it is my highest honor to nominate the gentleman from Florida, Byron Donalds, to be the next Speaker of the House, and I yield.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Are they voting again? I had lost track, so that's a wrap. We're definitely not going to watch that. I'm gonna have the last names of everybody in Congress or the House memorized by the end of this. Casual Ghost was right. That was cringe when he brought up the first black. I was like, bruh, that's not content. That's not the content of what Byron Donalds brings to the table. I don't give a damn what his skin color is. That was cringe. I do have some stories though. Let's get into it. This stuff is, and I'll be out. Like this, they just keep doing this. I might jump back in and out of lives, but let me do this. A couple little things I wanted to touch on, and then hopefully I'll clip them up, and then I'll be out. Reportedly, this needs to be investigated. Nobody's talking about this. Kevin McCarthy used FTX cash to defeat conservatives in 2022. This is who Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump support for president. That needs to be hashed out. Like, I don't know where we're going supporting that dude until that's hashed out. Laura Loomer caught up with AOC outside the Capitol, and AOC didn't want any of those problems.
Congressman, have you made a deal with the Republicans?
I wanted to.
Have you made a deal? Excuse me, Paul Gosar talked to you about it, didn't he?
Do you think that Kevin McCarthy should be investigated for using illegal FTX money against America First candidates in their primaries? Will you commit to investigating him?
I'm not sure if that's true, but
It's true. You should look into it.
If you don't know Laura Loomer, man, she is incredible. I believe she used to work for Project Veritas. She is unbelievable. I was in a Twitter Spaces with Laura Loomer. I was in that space. I think I was in it for like 3 hours. And she was in the Twitter Spaces just rattling off answers to questions off the top of the head for 3 hours. It was one of the most impressive Twitter Spaces I had ever heard. So listen to this, and I'm going to go back to the story. So Laura Loomer catches AOC in the streets. And she's a serious one. Not to knock Alex Stein or anybody else, but they have their culture shock stuff. She is a legit investigator, reporter. Not to say they aren't, but this isn't culture jamming. So you listen to the questions, and I probably would have been the same, like, hey, did you make a deal with Kevin McCarthy and all that? This is what the reporters were asking her. And then Laura Loomer had a much more powerful question that AOC had to acknowledge. Well, she didn't have to, but she did. So she sees Laura Loomer, then she takes a little U-turn, well, not U-turn, but a little whoop. Look at her. Looked like she did a little Barry Sanders juke move to her left. Watch. Whoop. Oh, there it is. She tried to break the ankles. Like, uh-oh, that's Laura Loomer. Whoop. She tried to go like, whoop, let me get out of here. Then she picked up her pace as well. But listen to the reporters in the background.
Republicans.
Did you make a deal with Republicans?
Congressman, have you made a deal with the Republicans?
Which is that's what I would have asked her too, because that was the rumor from the Hill at this time. The rumor had just popped off. Did you make a deal with the Republicans? They're saying you made a deal. That's what the reporters are asking.
Have you made a deal? Excuse me, Paul Gosar talked to you about it, didn't he?
Paul Gosar, if you don't know, yesterday, at least maybe today too, they were caught on video just talking. Who knows what they were talking? Well, they did talk about that. They were talking about like where does your side stand? So now here comes Laura Loomer right here. After all that foolishness is gone, I've got a question that I think she might want to answer. Because notice she framed it as going after a Republican. Obviously, if she said investigate FTX on Biden or whoever else, just throwing out names, AOC wouldn't respond. But it was at Kevin McCarthy, so that left room for AOC to respond. Laura Loomer is a boss. That's professional stuff right there.
Do you think that Kevin McCarthy should be investigated for using illegal FTX money against America First candidates in their primaries?
Ooh, so AOC's listening to this, and she's like, I can answer this because it's going after Republicans.
Investigated for using illegal FTX money against America First candidates in their primaries. Will you commit to investigating him?
I'm not sure if that's true, but
It's true.
Not sure if it's true, but I think Laura got this wrong. Maybe it's off video, but AOC did not say, oh, no. Oh, no, when she saw her. Yeah. When she did the Barry Sanders move. But AOC was like, I don't know if it's true either, but shouldn't it be like high priority to figure this out? Like Trump's not talked about. How can Trump not talk about this? Where is Trump at? Like, where is his head at? I don't know where he's at. I haven't even heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about this. Allegedly, McCarthy used left-wing oligarch money, so they're talking about he's a great money raiser. Okay, who's he raising money for? Anti-MAGA campaign within the GOP to protect his establishment speaker ambitions. So did you think that Kevin McCarthy was going to support America First candidates that would have given Matt Gaetz more ammo to get him out of the speaker position? No. So how can you support that clown? It's just some of the details here. Throughout the midterm campaign, Kevin McCarthy used his leadership fund, so he runs this as the head of the GOP in the House, the CLF, the Congressional Leadership Fund, political machine to inject massive amounts of cash into House races nationwide. In doing so, he targeted GOP primary races and even general elections versus Democrats in which America First conservatives aligned with President Trump were on the ballot. Millions of dollars worth of the campaign money came straight from corrupt crypto exchange FTX and its top executives. Along for the ride on McCarthy's scheme, or GOP lobbyist Jeff Miller, described as one of McCarthy's closest friends, Brian Walsh, an establishment strategist who McCarthy brought in to take down Madison Cawthorn after the young representative. Remember, we talked about this quite a few times, when he jumped out of his wheelchair and humped the dude on the bed. After the young, and I said, you know what? So what? Is he going to vote for my freedom? He can hump, he can get out. That was impressive. I was impressed. Blew the whistle on the DC stuff, the adult parties, the stuff, as they do often over a month ahead of the primaries. Washington Post, notoriously used for decades as a uniparty communication rag, facts, openly admitted that McCarthy was using left-wing oligarch money to sway the GOP field in favor of his establishment agenda. Conveniently for McCarthy and the establishment, the piece wasn't published until after the last of the GOP's nominating primaries had ended. McCarthy, the Post reported in their September piece, led a secretive anti-MAGA campaign within the GOP, using the party's oligarch-funded pocketbook to systematically weed out GOP candidates who could either cause McCarthy trouble if he becomes House Speaker or jeopardizes GOP establishment victories. Most of the money, millions. So MAGA candidates are having a hard time raising money. It's expensive to get on TV. He's raising the money, and most of it came from Ryan, I forget, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Salam, an executive at cryptocurrency exchange FTX. I had the receipts. I've already talked about this on the channel. It's worth talking about again. Let's see if they put the receipts in here. I don't remember if this article has it, but I tweeted it and put the receipts in it. This is it right here. It's right here, Ryan Salam of FTX and the Congressional Leadership Fund. All that money was anti-MAGA money. So I don't even know how you could even make a case for this dude. Let's talk about Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz said it's sad that Pappy Don, Grandpappy, is endorsing the guy I just said that used the money for anti-MAGA candidates. Well, Trump was just interviewed by Darren Beattie. I have to listen to see, did he bring that up? You can't interview Trump if you're not allowed to bring up, not that Trump did something wrong, but just McCarthy might have done something. Do you care about that? On Wednesday, Rep. Matt Gaetz responded to an endorsement by Grandpappy Don of Representative Kevin McCarthy. Some really good conversations took place last night, and it's now time for all of our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin, close the deal, take the victory, and watch crazy Nancy Pelosi fly back home to a very broken California. This is the truth post that I already read. So he did all that, and then if you go to Matt's response, in a statement to Fox News Digital, he explained that the former president's endorsement doesn't change his mind. Sad. This changes neither my view of McCarthy nor Trump nor my vote. Now I have a question for Gaetz. How does that not change your view on Trump? Depends on what his view on Trump was to begin with. But you see, he had to respond to it. And I think that's the extent of the response. But last night, Trump declined to say that he was endorsing Kevin, but the article came out this morning that in fact he did. So that's where it's at. Let me know what you think. I'm going to check back in, see if anything's going on. Thanks for stopping by. Fenwick Chick is in the chat. Always great to see Fenwick Chick. Trump needs to come back to Twitter, no doubt. I don't know if he needs to buy out truth or what, but his voice, he needs to get people to truth. So I fully understand that, but if he wants a voice in this process before things get really serious, I mean, they're serious now, but as far as him running for president, like when everybody announces and it's full blown, we're not there yet for whatever reason, he will have to be on Twitter. Facebook is going to be, that reminds me of an article I saw. I didn't read it, but the Facebook, if you don't know, they have their own Supreme Court. And they're going to be ruling. They literally have their own Supreme Court. I'm not lying. They're going to be ruling on the return of Trump here. So let me look at that real quick. Fenwick, you reminded me of this article I saw a couple days ago. And the headline is Facebook considering whether to allow Trump to return. Decision expected in coming weeks. Facebook's parent company Meta is considering whether to allow Don Dada, Pappy Don, to come back. The decision, likely to be one of the most consequential in the company's history, is being considered by a specially formed internal company working group. That's a fancy way of saying they have their own Supreme Court, made up of leaders from different parts of the organization. A person familiar to the deliberations told CNN. So I don't know what the point of bringing him back is when almost everything that comes out of his mouth would be a violation to them now. So I don't see him coming back there. Twitter was different because you had Elon back. He said, I'm going to change things a little bit. I think fundamentally Twitter's still the warped platform that it is. But, it is more welcoming to Trump. So it would make sense to have him come back because it's possible he could speak and not get banned. Not on Meta, though. The decision to re-platform a U.S. They have the power to re-platform a former U.S. president, and this is election interference. That is a fact. Facebook is interfering in the next election, 2024. If you have a candidate, he's already announced, and if you say, I'm saying it is a fact if, at this point they are, but let's just give it, they're going to do this thing in a couple weeks. If they decide that Trump can't come back on Facebook, I don't know what Google wants to call it, but you're literally interfering with an election, 2024. That's not up for debate. I'm not going back to the past or anything like that, but if somebody is running for president for or any office and you don't allow them on your social media platform, that is, you have a thumb on the scale of the process. So that's where we're going at. All this stuff, like if we determine that there's still a serious risk to public safety, man, I don't have time for that. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Let me know what you think. Stop animal. I'm worried about this. I got Twitch representing, but no, thanks. Trump has his Truth Social. He can't go back to Twitter. Oh, thank you. A little Twitch comment. Appreciate that. No, he has to go back to Twitter. So I don't know what the ramifications are with his Twitch ownership or stock or whatever. I'm not telling him to diss or to leave Truth necessarily. There are rumors that there's a deal that he can't just leave Truth or whatever, or that he has to post on he can't post on Twitter at certain times or something. But every deal can be renegotiated. He's got to keep Truth, but he's got to find a way to use Twitter to get people to Truth. Twitter had that new rule where they said you can't bring people to the other platform. I think they held off on that because of the feedback. But to have Trump on the platform, they wouldn't ban him for that because he's too big. Elon wants Trump back because those are eyes back on the platform. But Trump would have to post, here's my thoughts on Speaker. I still back Kevin. Full comment on Truth. I'm not a great marketer, so however you do that, he will have to get people to Truth. But anyway, if he wants to have a voice, Twitter isn't a psyop in a way because it all just stays isolated, but there's still value in rallying those people, the small percentage of the country that's on Twitter. Stop Animal Modern Torture says Facebook gets downgraded if a public phone number and limited photo site could be made. Facebook would really get undercut. Yeah, but Facebook is really Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram is still a beast platform, even though I don't use it. It's just not. I just haven't found an effective way to use it. But Facebook, I don't look at Facebook as a, I guess you should, but to me, Instagram is Facebook. They're together. Casual Goats, I also enjoy his live series, been hanging around since, oh, wait, they're talking about this? Yeah, man. Casual Goats has been friend of the show from way back. Appreciate you vouching for the channel. Let's take a look and see if there's anything popping off here. I'm going to probably stop within 9 minutes or so.
He's definitely more conservative than Hakeem Jeffries would be, Speaker Jeffries would be. But they're also like, what is it that they're trying to, what ideological difference do they have with Kevin McCarthy? He gave them everything they wanted, and that still wasn't enough. So they really are becoming the never enough caucus of the overall Republican caucus.
All right, Jay O'Brien, you actually have some new reporting now on McCarthy's strategy at this point. Do tell.
Yeah, this comes to us from our colleagues Will Staken and Catherine Folders, who are standing just there off the House floor. And Will Staken reports that Kevin McCarthy walked off the floor and said to him, and let me just read it to you verbatim, "We're going to take a break in a little, then go meet." He didn't elaborate as to where they're going to meet or what's next. He didn't give any other specifics, but it appears that the House might be headed towards adjourning again. Obviously, adjourning has to be done by a majority vote, as we saw yesterday. So if there's any opposition to adjourning, that could derail this. But in theory, it appears Kevin McCarthy is confident that he has the votes to take this break, to adjourn these proceedings today, and either kick the can into tomorrow, as we saw what happened yesterday, or kick the can later into the evening. They can adjourn to any designated date and time, but they have to pick a designated date and time under this situation in the House where there are no rules. Also, there's some other reporting that comes from both Will and Catherine Folders, our colleagues here, again, standing right there off the House floor. In McCarthy, it appears, according to Will and Catherine's reporting, is in talks with his allies to hold conversations tonight that will work to try to get some kind of a deal that can earn him more support from those 20 anti-McCarthy votes that we've seen emerge over the course of the day. It's the same 20 who voted against McCarthy yesterday. Now there's one additional lawmaker who's voting present. Now there's some kind of a deal, it appears, or some kind of conversation to have McCarthy meet with lawmakers behind the scenes and his allies meet with lawmakers behind the scenes and work out a deal, particularly on what's called the motion to vacate the chair. That is a provision that would allow the removal of the Speaker of the House. It would allow the removal of Kevin McCarthy from his job if he becomes the Speaker of the House. And there's a debate as to what the threshold should be to trigger that vote to remove the Speaker. McCarthy caved and made it 5 lawmakers, so 5 lawmakers would have to get together and trigger that vote to remove the Speaker. Now there's conversations, and it appears McCarthy has agreed, according to this reporting, to lower that threshold from 5 to 1. That would be a huge concession from him, and it's the concession that Byron Donalds was talking about to Rachel Scott earlier on the steps of the House, or of the steps of the Capitol, saying we think there's going to be some motion on a movement on motion to vacate the chair, lowering that threshold to 5 to 1. According to Will and Catherine's excellent reporting, it appears that that has happened now, and that he's agreeing to lower that threshold again from 5 to 1. Is that enough to move the needle? Is that enough to convince some of those 20 anti-McCarthy votes to come back to vote for Kevin McCarthy? That remains to be seen. I can tell you there are at least 5 hardcore Never McCarthy members of Congress who have been Never McCarthy votes from the beginning, who have been Never McCarthy votes from just around right after the election. I spoke with a source close to them last night. In this source's opinion, there was nothing that could move the needle of those 5 lawmakers and get them to back Kevin McCarthy. But a lot's happened since last night, and any concession Kevin McCarthy makes could potentially convince lawmakers to switch to his side. We will see in those deliberations tonight exactly what he laid, exactly what is agreed to. And if it is enough to get people to swap to Kevin McCarthy, and maybe later tonight or tomorrow, there is potentially some kind of a resolution to all of this, because we are going on, 9 hours of voting for a Speaker of the House, Kira.
So, Kathleen, taking into account the new reporting that Jay just gave us, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? And what could this, possible deal be if indeed we go with what Kevin McCarthy said just off the House floor there, that we're going to break in a little and then go meet?
Well, it makes sense that they're going to meet because they're clearly not getting the job done by hanging around the floor and trying to twist arms on the floor. So I think meeting is probably a good idea. The fact that it sounds like Kevin McCarthy is willing to reduce the number of people who can bring a motion to vacate the chair from 5 to 1 is incredibly disturbing, because really what that means is it would only take, if he becomes Speaker, if he agrees to this and they agree to vote for him, at any point once he becomes Speaker, it will only take one member of the caucus to bring a motion to vacate the chair. That would create basically a potential recall. So I understand why he's making these negotiations. I'm a little surprised that he gave that up. It's, we put the rule in when we took over that it should be a majority of the caucus that has to make a motion to vacate the chair. It should not just be one individual member who can do that. But I understand deal making and negotiating, and maybe we will see the 20 or so, the 20 people willing to change their vote if they come to this agreement to lower the level that it takes to as a motion to vacate the chair. But I just think that that is going to create a potential nightmare for Kevin after he's sworn in, if he's sworn in as Speaker.
So, are Democrats still united here, Kathleen? And at what point does their stamina run out?
I don't, you're never going to see that. Democrats.
My understanding is, I'm reading this article here, and my understanding is it's just a vote, as GB talked about. So that does not excite me. One person can say, hey, I want to vote to get Kevin McCarthy out as Speaker, but it's just a vote. It's not. So that's not even huge. I don't even know why they think that's a huge thing. It's not a huge thing to me.
No question that Democrats are fully united behind that leadership team of Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar. We might have our differences ideologically, but we always come together to. Which
differences are those? They have differences ideologically. They're not on war, that's for sure. They're not on big spending. I don't know what the differences are. Maybe there are some, but nothing. They don't disagree on anything substantial. They are one voting bloc, pretty much.
To act for the American people. So I don't see there being any relenting, any weakening on the Democratic side. I think that every time we go through these votes, they get more emboldened to not be the ones to throw the Republicans a lifeline. They have to figure this out themselves.
I believe that's Anna Paulina. Is that the new Congress?
Donalds. So, Barbara Comstock, if McCarthy was to win over at least one unexpected
Thomas Massey,
player,
of course.
like Chip Roy, for instance, could he win this uphill battle?
Thomas Massey's probably tweeting.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly sorry to hear him, give if he is thinking of giving away that motion to vacate and go down to 1, because I do think that would make his life miserable and it'd be bad for the institution. But I do think that, there have been people who have indicated that would get their vote. I still think he has the problem of these hard 5 no's that may not come back no matter what. People like Bob Good, people like Matt Gaetz. And there is some reporting now that I've seen, I think from Politico, that's just gone up that Ken Buck has told Kevin McCarthy that he needs to, kind of have some kind of deal to get these remaining votes, or he needs to step aside, or he might lose Ken Buck's vote or others that might go with it. So I think that time is coming where he has to cut some deal that's going to produce enough votes to, there has to be movement shown here soon, or he's going to, lose some of his, the 201, 202 that he has had to date.
Kathleen, if you were on the floor today, and you already made it clear you're really glad you are not on the floor today, but if you were, what would you be doing right now? What would be the conversations you'd be having? What would you be attempting to do?
Well, I would, my one regret of not being on the floor is not being able to cast a vote for Hakeem Jeffries. But I spent my 8 years in Congress trying to reach across the aisle. I have relationships with a lot of Republicans. I would, be imploring them to try to, do the right thing here and get behind someone who, look, you can't beat someone with no one. But now we know, because we went through that as Democrats, you can't beat someone with no one. But we have gone through 3 or 4 separate, this is the 5th or 6th vote now, with 3 separate other people, and they didn't even come close to reaching Kevin McCarthy. I think he has earned the right to be elected speaker. The chaos, obviously, Democrats feel like it's good for them because the Republicans, they got the majority, albeit by a small number of seats. But now what they're showing the American people is they can't even agree on the most basic vote they have to take, which is who is going to lead the House. And this is something that I know that, the leadership team has been working on for a long time. So, I mean, I don't know if I would end up, I don't know. I don't have a big enough ego to think that I would be able to, nor would it be my job to persuade any of the never Kevins, because people in their own party can't do that. But I do hope that, we get past this quickly because we have to get to the work of the American people. Right now, there is no functioning House of Representatives. I stopped being, my final day as a member was yesterday, but my successor has yet to be sworn in. So the people in my district and in districts all across the country are not being represented yet. Committees are not being set up. And we've got to get a move on this and set the rules and get to work as a body.
And Kathleen, just, in layman's terms, tell those that are listening and paying attention and wondering, okay, what does this mean for me on a daily basis every day? Because that was one thing that stood out when our Rachel Scott was able to grab Byron Donalds, the Republican there that's been nominated for Speaker, brand new, hasn't even been sworn in yet, hasn't even passed any legislation. He said, look, we're only in day 2. Everybody just needs to relax. We're going to come to a deal. People are still driving their car, going to work. I took my kids to school today. And I kind of sat back and thought, wow, not every constituent right now is going to feel that way when legislation, if we don't have a Congress, we don't have a speaker, if legislation just comes to a standstill and nothing gets passed and Congress can't do anything for those who elected them. That's going to become pretty darn frustrating.
The longer this goes, it's going to get very, very, it's basically the equivalent, almost the equivalent of a government shutdown from a legislative perspective. But even more specifically to our constituents, there are no phones on in offices yet. I mean, no one has been sworn in. As I said, the person who succeeded me has not become an actual sitting member of Congress yet. I mean, there are people in districts who are still dealing with COVID issues, who are dealing with educational issues, passport issues. I mean, that is when, people are really going to start to feel the pinch here. So we've got to get this, we've got to get, the Republicans have got to pick someone. They've got to settle on someone so we can get this legislative body back to work, set the rules for the next Congress, get the committees set up, get people's members' offices in not only in DC, but in their home districts set up so that they can address the needs of their constituents. I mean, this is going to become a problem the longer this goes on. And I hope that will bring some level of sanity and reasonableness to a group of people who have shown quite an immunity to those characteristics.
Keyword sanity to all the chaos that we are witnessing right now as we are entering in our second day. And it appears Kevin McCarthy is going to lose his 6th speaker vote. As we are, Jay O'Brien, where are we right now, letter-wise?
Yeah, we're a keeper of the alphabet as always for you, Kira. That we are in the ends of the votes here on the floor. We've seen a block of 20 Never McCarthy or anti-McCarthy votes over the course of this entire proceeding. So we're expecting to see 20 by the end of this voting for someone else, some other Republican other than Kevin McCarthy. On this ballot and on every ballot today, those who are protesting a McCarthy speakership are voting for Byron Donalds. Yesterday, their protest candidate was Jim Jordan. Both Jordan and Byron Donalds have said they have no interest in becoming Speaker of the House. But nonetheless, once Kevin McCarthy passes 5 Republicans voting for somebody else, he becomes on track to lose that ballot. So he's absolutely on track to lose that ballot, because you see on your screen that column of 17 other now. Those are Republicans who are voting for someone else, and each ballot has been, or each vote for someone else has been for Byron Donalds. So Kevin McCarthy, again, on track to lose this vote. We've seen him and his team working the vote on the House floor, attempting to find some kind of a deal that can get the required votes that he needs. He needs 218. We've heard from our reporting from Will Staken, our colleague who's standing right there outside the House floor, that McCarthy has said that they're going to take a break now. They're going to, in theory, adjourn if they have the votes to adjourn, and come back in a little bit, whether that's tomorrow or later tonight, with some kind of a plan. So what we're seeing going forward now is a move to adjourn, in theory, and also a push from McCarthy and his allies to try to strike some kind of a deal with those who are opposing Kevin McCarthy. But the question, as you and I have been discussing, that hangs over this entire process is what deal is out there that could convince some of those 20 anti-McCarthy votes to flip. As we've been saying over the course of the afternoon, there has not been a single vote that's flipped from a no back to Kevin McCarthy over this entire process. So to get any lawmakers that have gone from anti-McCarthy to pro-McCarthy would be a huge accomplishment for the McCarthy team.
Well, if the vote to adjourn goes like it did yesterday, as you may remember, Jay, before they could even say, what's the answer, you heard the entire floor, everybody on the floor say yes. And it was quick and finished, and they decided when to come back. So,
okay. I'm going to be out. But yes, I think, thank you in the chat. Beam me up, Mr. Scott. And I'm going to be out. I don't know if this is what they were talking about, but I'm seeing this. Muzzle mandate return at several NJ school districts. Yikes. So this is true. Beginning Tuesday, students and staff must wear these muzzles indoors. They said the move comes in response to the triple-demic. Wow. Pandemic, RSV, and the flu. So now they're using all 3 as the reasoning. Or potentially. I don't know if the article linked that. Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to be out, but I think one thing is clear. It doesn't matter if you're a corporate guy. Like, I think Will Chamberlain is very big on, if you know Will, he's a lawyer. He's been on Tim Pool's show. He's very big on McCarthy right now. And I think for you establishment types, it's over for McCarthy. He doesn't have this political sway anymore. So we don't know where we're going to go, but you wouldn't even want, like you really wouldn't even want him to be speaker at this point. So you got to move on. What's her name? Spitfire said it perfectly. Conservative influencer accounts can ridicule and be condescending to us little people, but we know what we don't want. We don't want McCarthy as speaker. I think that's it. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. Take care. Oh, yeah, let me thank you. I always forget this because I go up to the last second and then I got to run, do my chores and stuff. But let me put a link to the Discord. So thank you, Casual Gold. Yeah, we were just talking about New Year's and stuff. If you want to just chat non-political stuff, this is the best place. That's why we did it. So we can talk, not just politics, but mostly it's non-political in there. So check that out. Appreciate you.